once again in the Porsche section of my garage. This is my Porsche Carrera GT. I think this is the greatest Porsche ever built. Sadly, they don't make them anymore. It's amazing to buy a car 4 or 5 years ago and all of a sudden, boom, it's a collector car, but that's pretty much what it's become. We had the opportunity to drive this car at Talladega. Boy, it was a lot of fun, you know, taking it up to 190 miles an hour lapping. And this is all Porsche paraphernalia on the walls. But I thought what we'd do today is something different. What I'm going to show you is the new Porsche GT2. This is the ultimate version of the 911. And what we're going to do is, well, let's just say you bought one and they're going to walk you through it and show you the entire car. You've seen it in the magazines, but the pictures don't really do it justice. You really have to see it move and have someone demonstrate all the features to you. Here it is right here. This is the GT2. It's in Arrest Me Red, so the cops will definitely see you coming. This one's got a little bit of a protective film on it here to keep it from stone chips and stuff. I want to bring in a couple of the Porsche guys. Andy, come on in here. Andy's a technical instructor at Porsche. This is, as I said, the ultimate version of the 911. All the magazines raving, obviously, about the GT3. That's the non-turbocharged version. This one has twin turbochargers. What, 530 horsepower? 530 horsepower versus what, 4 for the GT3? 400, something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that? Okay. So that's quite a kick. And what are the other differences between this and the GT3?
Well, this is the turbo model. Now, the standard turbo is 4-wheel drive.
Right.
This is a 2-wheel drive car, so it's a little lighter.
Right.
And so this is pretty much the Porsche 911 turbo on steroids.
Every time you think the 911 is taken to the ultimate extreme, they come up with something else. Power to weight seems to be the new thing, just getting the weight out of the car. I know this car is about, what, 300 pounds lighter, right, than the standard?
It's about 5 pounds to horsepower.
Okay.
They've also fine-tuned the suspension and the brakes. This has a different brake than the standard turbo.
Okay.
Specially designed for this car.
Yeah, massive brakes. Take a look at the size of that caliper. Those are carbon fiber brakes?
Yep.
Okay. Are the intakes different up front?
Yeah, very different. There's a third radiator.
Okay.
And this is where the air exits the radiator.
Okay.
The Porsche aerodynamics is pretty sophisticated. They always design all the inlets for the air for the intercoolers and the radiators where they're in a high pressure area,
right,
and the exits at a low pressure area. So they actually get airflow through the radiators and the intercoolers higher than ram air. So the car's going 60, but the air going through the radiators and the intercoolers is actually going through them at 70.
The seats are so much thinner than the standard. I mean, imagine there's a little weight saving there. There's no rear seat in this car as well. But you have all the amenities, air conditioning, and you got the upgraded stereo and all that kind of stuff. And a proper 6-speed gearbox. Can you get the paddle shifter in this?
No.
No, okay, so this is, thank you very much, making it a driver's car. Let's open up the hood here on this.
The first thing you notice is the dual air inlets.
And this is obviously carbon fiber here. A little weight saving there as well. And you mentioned this is redesigned as well.
Mm-hmm. The intake manifold's different from the standard turbo. It's a special expansion type intake manifold. Like I said, it adds about 30 horsepower to the system.
This is one of the turbochargers from a GT2. Now, if you've read any of the magazines, Road and Track, Car and Driver, they always talk about the variable vane turbocharger. How do you make the vanes variable? Well, here it is right here. See this little bit of business here? You've got a, can you see it change? Just one of those cool kind of Porsche innovations. And obviously you know how a turbocharger works. The exhaust gases spin the vanes, which force more fuel into the cylinders. And when you can vary the vanes like that, I guess you can get it to spin faster. I got to put this back in the car now and get it running. You know what I'd like to show folks? Just if you've never been in one of these cars, driven one of these cars, let's show some of the convenience features as well. The way you can check the oil from the dashboard, the chrono clock. You know, I've seen the chrono clock in the magazines, but I'm never quite sure how it works. So maybe you could demonstrate that for us.
Let's say I had a place where I drove to work every day, where I wanted to compare my times. I was trying to see how fast I could do it.
Right.
Every time I hit that drive, like let's say I hit the on-ramp, I hit the sport chrono and it starts timing. Or of course I could do it on the track.
Right. Yeah, so, you want to do it on the track. I wouldn't advocate to.
Well,
It's that
it's
same
there-
cop sitting there
it's-
every day.
And it stores these
I got you.
these laps.
Stores the
And I
information.
can bring up a display in here once I've stored 5 or 6 of them and compare my lap times. Okay, to check the oil level, you select oil off the dash function. We're about 0.7 of a quart low. So I can also show the tire pressure. This is a safety feature. They began this back in the real early 90s with the 928. I've got 2 buttons over here. I've got SC and TC. SC stability control, TC's traction control.
Okay.
So stability control, what it is it uses the ABS to actuate the brakes.
Can you actually shut off the traction control altogether?
Yes, if I hit both SC and TC off, the whole thing
So
is
everything
shut
else,
down.
so you're in,
Right.
okay.
If I hit SC off, it just shuts off the stability management.
Now explain the launch control.
I put the clutch to the floor,
Right.
I handle the gas, it takes me up to 5, and then when it hits, as soon as it hits 0.9,
Right.
I let the clutch up.
Okay.
And now this is an e-throttle car, so there's no actual connection between my foot and the throttle plate.
Gotcha.
It's electronic.
Gotcha.
So what will happen is the e-throttle will manipulate the fuel amount, the engine timing, and the throttle position to keep the car running. In other words, it won't allow me to stall it.
Your average driver, even your average good driver, probably should never run with both traction and stability control off, right?
No.
I mean, a race car driver maybe.
I always remember
Yeah.
Hurley Haywood told me, he goes, I was in front of the press and they were beating me up because they were saying, why doesn't Porsche build drivers' cars? Why do they put this stuff on so anybody can drive the car fast? What Hurley said is, what these systems do is what I would do. He goes, I can drive the car, or I can turn this system on, and it's going to do pretty much what I would do when I'm going fast on the track.
Race car driving is like sex. All men think they're good at it, and then you realize, oh, that's not really the case.
This car is really mild-mannered right up to its limit.
Right.
And as soon as you cross it, you're driving backwards and looking down the road in the rear
Right,
mirror.
exactly.
Get a lot more trunk space than with the turbo. Because
Oh
it's
yeah, you get a
four-wheel
lot more
drive.
trunk space.
Well, other than the turbo, because it's 4-wheel drive, so
Yeah.
there'd be an extra hump in it.
And the nice thing about it, if somebody hits you on the head, they can't throw you in the trunk and drive off unless they chop you up first. Let me bring in another expert. This is Jack from Beverly Hills Porsche. How are you?
Good.
I know you're a technician and an instructor as well. What do you got there?
This is a camshaft out of this vehicle. This is the intake camshaft.
Okay.
And the way this operates is, back in the day when you had a muscle car and you had a real high lift, high rev cam,
Right.
you would have poor performance at the low speed.
Right.
So you would have to have, sacrificing your low speed performance for your high speed performance. With this camshaft, with the dual profiles that it has, you have the capability of having low speed cam on this lobe here.
I see, yeah.
And then you have this much higher lift, and it changes the lift and the duration. So you have the velocity, air velocity at low speed and at high speed as well. So it's like having multiple camshafts in the car at the same time.
Very
So-
cool. Now, give us your take on this car as a technician.
Well, this is the car that you want your customer to have
Right.
added to his collection, so you get the opportunity to work on it as well as drive it. The owner of this car is very detail-oriented, and it's very adjustable. You can adjust the suspension. Everything is upgraded from the standard car. It's more like, let's say, an executive jet, where
Right.
the other car is more of a touring car. This car actually has track capabilities. You can adjust the sway bars, and the suspension automatically adjusts the valving electronically to the way you're driving the car. And everything about the car has been upgraded to be high performance.
So if a person buys a Porsche, he can go back to a Porsche dealer and go, I'd like this, I'd like that, and the dealer can do that for him?
Absolutely, there's a number of things we can do as far as adjusting the suspension to the way the customer drives. If he's going to track the car,
Yeah.
we can put a roll bar in it, things of that nature.
That's one of my pet peeves with some of the exotics. You go to the dealerships, especially in Beverly Hills, and they have the leather jacket and they've got some of the fancy, the chains and all this stuff. But there's no work bay, there's no work area. They just sort of push the car out the door. The fun thing, whenever you watch any of these tuner shootout things, the cars that always win are Porsche and Corvette, because you can beat them up and they're meant to be driven. I get annoyed at these ones that are just sort of luxury GT cars and you go back to the dealer and they don't know what they're talking about.
The transmission has been optimized for this type of vehicle. The shifting, everything is shorter shift lever, things of that nature. With the ceramic brakes, you save a lot of unsprung weight,
Right.
which is very important, as you know. The less unsprung weight, the better. You have full titanium exhaust, where you talk about, you know, tuner guys, they want a tricked up exhaust. Well, it doesn't get any tricker than this. Intake and exhaust is Porsche's specialty. And I always tell the customer that nobody is better than the guys at Weissach. You know, you have a guy with a laptop over there somewhere in some little shop, and he thinks he can outdo the guys at Weissach. I don't think so.
Do you have a standard warranty?
This car, yes, has a
GT2.
full warranty, 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty.
Because, you know, when I was a kid and you bought a Hemi car, you got the 90-day warranty.
Yeah.
You got 3 months, and if we thought you abused it, we're not paying off anything. So the fact that you can take this car out, beat the heck out of it, and still get the standard 4-year warranty is pretty amazing.
This is a very, very advanced engine. Back in the day, we'll talk about how, you know, you would take your car, your muscle car, and have the engine balanced and blueprinted. Well, that's the kind of stuff that Porsche does at the factory with titanium connecting rods, dry sump lubrication system, all the stuff that you would find on a race car, basically, which passes government smog laws.
Do octane boosters or race gas, does that give you any advantage?
Well, what happens is if the compression, if the octane is too low for the compression, the knock sensor activates and you lose power.
Right.
So the highest octane you can run will keep this on the boil, if you will,
but
longer.
Do octane boosters actually work in a motor like this? Or
Well, it's not going to hurt it.
Okay.
And it's a deal where race gas is good, obviously, if you're really going to be running the engine at the track.
But you don't want race gas with lead in it.
No lead.
Unleaded race gas, right, because of cat, right. And there's no advantage to taking the catalytic converter off, is there? The car will run worse. This is another one of these myths that people seem to have. They take the cat off. Not only do you get a $10,000 fine, your car doesn't run nearly as well. So it's meant, you know, in the old days, in the 70s and even in the 80s, the catalytic converter was stuck on. You took it off, you could tune it, you actually get it to run better. These days, the catalytic converter is part of the car. It's built right in, it's designed to run using a catalytic converter. So you can stay green and actually go faster. So there's no advantage to removing it. Okay.
Yeah, with this car, actually, the air exiting the exhaust is cleaner than the air going in the intake.
Yeah, it's almost hard to believe. So if you drive this in the car,
they scrub the air.
So if you drive this in the garage and shut the door and decide to kill yourself,
you can't.
You'll starve to death first. By golly, I think we're ready to go for a ride. Give you an idea how stiff this chassis is. Notice how it doesn't flex at all. Look at that. A bit of a rise here. Pretty amazing. Series has got to be the longest running series of a single car ever. You know why it's called 911? It's interesting. I guess originally they started with like the 901, and Peugeot at that time had sort of a patent on any cars that had a 0 in the middle, a 404, 403, whatever. So Porsche then went to 911 because it was the first number after 10. Just more useless information. Every time I do a Porsche or Porsche, I get a million emails. People come to the website. You're pronouncing it wrong. I know it's technically Porsche, but I said Porsche my whole life, so you'll just have to forgive me on that. Dash and gauges, very nicely laid out. No silly digital nonsense. You know, just proper analog gauges. I mean, you've got a little bit of a digital display. But to me, there's nothing like knowing where my needles are, you know. My needle's over here, I know it's time to shift, you know. Sometimes the simplest way is the best. If there's anything that distinguishes Porsche from a lot of other mainstream cars, is the build quality. It's just fantastic. Steering very communicative. You know, I'm not a race car driver. I'm just a guy who likes to drive on the street. But the amazing thing is you can tune this to exactly your specifications. These are really cars for perfectionists. You want a car to handle exactly a certain way and do exactly a certain thing. This is the car to do it with. The amazing thing is the amount of road feel. You can feel every part of it through the steering wheel. Not in a bad way, just in a sensitive way. I get the feeling if I ran over a dime, I could tell if it was heads or tails. It's not the smoothest riding car. Your spouse might not be thrilled. You will be, unless your spouse is into that. I'm just amazed at how rigid this car is. I mean, make no mistake about it, this is really a race car for the street. Just so incredibly tight. We drove a GT3 a while back. A lot of people consider that the perfect Porsche, best handling, and it is wonderful. It's a great car, normally aspirated, but if you just like that little extra oomph, if you just want to win that stoplight Grand Prix, this is not only a sports car, it's a dragster as well. 0 to 60 in what, 3.3, 3.4, something like that. The other cool thing about these cars is you don't really need to go to the aftermarket. You're not going to find an exhaust system that's better and lighter than this factory titanium unit. There's not many people can make this car do what it really can do. I would say that your average driver could maybe drive this thing at 6/10 or maybe 7/10. To drive this thing at 10/10, it takes a long time to learn a car, and especially the intricacies of the 911 series. You know, they just have their own way of handling. You know, I remember when the first Porsche Turbo came out, I believe it was 1976. It had 260 horsepower, and that was a death trap. People thought 206, that's crazy. There was talk about banning it because it was too fast. This is 530. This car is almost as fast as the Carrera GT at half the price. What a bargain. It's a hard car to go slow in. Cops just, their ears perk up. You see cops sitting in the car, this thing goes by. What? So, be careful. And a terrific sound as well. But hardly detectable at all. That's the beauty of that variable vane deal. It gets rid of that lag. Like I'm in third gear now, I just touch the throttle, I'm out of here. You know, any gear you're in this car, you just punch it. Let's go try that launch control. Pulls pretty good. But let's try one without the launch control and all the fancy stuff. Gee, I wonder how it is for burning.